Hi guys and gals. In today's video, I'm going to discuss how to price your woodworking products to maximize your profit for your woodworking business. Make sure you guys stick around to the end because I'm going to share a personal example of how I apply these concepts in my shop. My name is Nick Pecos. Welcome to the channel. For those of you who don't know me, I've been woodworking for over 10 years. Everything you see in the shop today was paid for by me selling my products. I ran my shop as a part-time business for over 5 years and easily made 2 to 3 grand a month. And you can too if you keep some simple things in mind when pricing out your products. Let's get into it, guys. Big picture, you need to think about what kind of shop you are, what kind of items do you want to make, and who do you want to sell them to. The type of items you sell, the business size, and potential customers will dictate how you set your price. What do I mean by that? Well, setting a price for a custom item looks a little bit different than setting a price for an item that's produced in bulk. Setting a price as a hobbyist woodworker is a little bit different than setting a price for a woodworking business with 500 employees. And setting a price intended for a blue-collar guy is going to be different than setting a price for Johnny Depp. Let's start with what kind of shop you are. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you're just starting out this whole woodworking thing and do it on a part-time or full-time basis. But you work alone and most likely out of a piece of property you own, whether that be a garage, basement, barn, whatever. In this situation, you need to keep it simple and not overwhelm yourself with fancy terms like overhead, profit margins, and capital asset pricing model based off quantitative easing.
What did he say?
You're just starting out. You don't need to think about those things yet. In fact, doing so is going to cause more harm than good because it will probably scare you off from starting in the first place. For a solo production, your formula is materials plus labor equals price, where materials is everything you need to buy to produce the product, like wood, nails, screws, glue, and labor is the amount of time you put into making your product. Both material and labor are going to be estimates right off the bat because you're new to this. This is something that you're going to get better at and work on over time. Add the cost of materials times the hourly rate you want to be paid times the number of hours, and that equals your price. That's your formula. It's that simple. This process is going to look a lot different if you're a larger company with employees. In that case, you've grown your business using simple methods that have made you a profit, and now it's time to fine-tune those methods. A lot of detail needs to be appreciated, and to be honest, that topic is far too large for this YouTube video, and also not the focus. Next, you need to consider what kind of items you want to make, and by that I mean, do you want to make custom items like handmade furniture, or do you want to invest in a CNC machine and belt out products rapid fire? With custom items, you're pouring your heart and soul into a piece and are presumably adding your own style and technique to the product, which takes skill and can't be duplicated. As a result, you should be pricing your products to take that into account. And that comes in the form of increasing the labor cost from the materials plus labor equals price formula. You have to ask yourself, what is the value of my time and experience in making my product? Only you can decide that. Consider starting off at a lower rate when you're a beginner and then increasing that rate over time as your skills grow. I do not mean lowball your initial labor value. It just means increasing that number from wherever you decide to start. In addition, with custom products, you're not only factoring in the time it takes to produce the item, but also the time it takes to put together the price quote, design the item, gather the materials. This is more complicated and a more time-consuming process than mass-producing items, so your price should reflect that. On the other side of the fence is making items in bulk. When making these products, you now need to factor in the competition. Why? Because selling these kinds of items is heavily determined by the market that you're in. Let's say you want to make cutting boards and in the surrounding 100 miles there's 4 other shops that are selling cutting boards at 75 bucks a pop. This is assuming similar size and shape of the cutting boards. If you decide to make a very similar item, don't really add anything special to it, set the price at $100, you're going to run into trouble. Customers have other options, and since they presumably don't know you or your brand yet, they're going to go with the option that looks the same and has a cheaper price tag. Keep in mind, this is less of a factor if you decide to make that similar item but add your own flair to the piece. In addition, the labor and materials that you're putting into this product should be less than a custom-made item because now you're making an item that you've made many of. This lets you streamline your production process. You're going to be able to save money on materials because you can buy in bulk. You're going to be able to save on labor costs because your time of production will go down. Making a product for the 100th time should be faster than when you made it for the first time. You should have systems in place to make the whole process faster and more efficient. Here's an example. If you take a CNC machine to make charcuterie boards, you should have a file with your design that only needs to be designed the initial time. Every time you make those boards after that, the file is ready to go. Finally, you want to consider who you're selling your product to. This takes into account the psychology of pricing and the idea of exclusivity. Are you looking to make your products available to the everyday average consumer, in which case it will be more widely available, and the goal is a lower priced product? Or are you looking to make a product that is only attainable for a few, and thus exclusive, and higher priced? That's image pricing in a nutshell. Logically, you would think we would want to get the best value we can at the lowest cost. And sometimes we do. But that's not always the case. Some people are far more concerned with obtaining the best image and are willing to sacrifice quality. Take these two examples. La Mer de Crème de la Mer. That's a mouthful to say. This is a super expensive face cream that contains mostly inexpensive cosmetic ingredients and costs $325 for a 2-ounce bottle. On the flip side, you have CeraVe Moisturizing Cream, which can be purchased at most local drugstores. This product's recommended by dermatologists, and it has proven ingredients for skin barrier repair and hydration, and it sells at $19.99 for a 16-ounce jar. Here's another example. Chanel bags, which go for upwards of $8,000 a pop. They face scrutiny due to customer complaints of delicate leather, poor stitching, and hardware that shows wear quickly. As opposed to a similarly sized bag from a company called Kayana, which uses better leather and more robust construction, and those bags go for $300 to $500. So right now you're thinking, how does all this apply to me and my shop? And I'm going to get into that. But I'm first going to ask, if you guys are finding this helpful, I would greatly appreciate your support in the form of subscribing and engaging with the content. Like the video, post a comment, it all helps, and I can't thank you enough. So here's an example of how I priced out an item from my shop. I recently took on a custom job for a client. The client wanted a double dog kennel that she could use to secure her 2 pups, and she wanted it to be a nice enough piece that she could also use it as a media console in her living room. She wanted the base painted white, and she wanted the top to have a rustic look. One more thing, she wanted the piece to be on wheels because she may need to move it around her house frequently. If you want to check out the video on this build, by the way, follow the link in the upper left corner. In my case, I'm a small shop and I work alone. This is definitely a custom product, and I don't make things for customers like Johnny Depp. Factoring all this into account, I'm going to use the materials plus labor equals price formula, and I'm going to keep in mind that although it's a custom piece, this is going to a person that is not looking for the Mona Lisa of media consoles / dog kennels. So I get to work designing the piece and figuring out what the materials are. I know the base is going to be painted so I can use pine, and my plan for the top is to use a rustic looking stain from Midwax, again on pine. To make the bars, I'm going to use 1/2-inch black pipe from Home Depot. I also need to pick up a sliding barn door hardware track from Amazon, some extra dominoes from my Fez tool domino, some figure 8 hardware to secure the top to the base, some baseboard, and some double-sided Velcro. So let's price that all out. I get my lumber from Bingham Lumber, and they charge $5.99 per board foot for rough cut pine at 8/4. After designing the project, I know I need roughly 50 board feet. Don't forget to add in 10% to account for waste. So 55 times $5.99 is $329.45. The black piping I get from Home Depot is $59.99 for a 4-pack of 1/2-inch by 72-inch long black pipe. 1 quart of white paint is $18.48, and 1 quart of Minwax driftwood color is $18.98. Sliding barn door track from Amazon is $34.68. Tabletop fasteners, $10.61. Fez tool domino, 300 pack, $24.38. For baseboard, I'm going to pick up one 8-foot length, which is $6.51. And I'm going to pick up double-sided Velcro by 3M, again off Amazon, for $14.99. So the grand total for materials is $518.07. Now let's break down the labor cost. Design's going to take me roughly 2 hours. Gathering materials, another 2 hours. Back and forth with the client, designing the project, seeing what their preferences are, about an hour. The actual build itself, 20 hours. Total time in this project, about 25 hours. Let's say I want to get paid an hourly rate of $30. So we take 30 times 25, and that gives us $750. $750 plus $518.07 equals a grand total of $1,268.07. Now at that price, I'm making over $700 in profit for a piece that I'm making in my spare time that's enjoyable to make. It's a reasonably priced product for my customer, and in my case, this formula is going to keep my business thriving. By the way, if you want to go on and mass produce this item, now you have a rough idea of what the materials are, you have a rough idea of the amount of labor you're going to have to put into the product, and when you get to streamlining your process, you can cut down that materials cost, you can cut down that labor time, you can make a lot more of this product a lot more efficiently. So that's it, guys. I hope you find this video helpful, and I hope it fine-tunes what you need to think about when pricing out your woodworking items. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider watching this video on how to run your part-time woodworking business as well.